Welcome back to Don's Life, welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining today. I had a bit of a problem with my GMC Sierra AT4. I had this nice switch panel here. It has 8 spots. We're only using 6. That means my problem is I need to find something to put in the other 2 spots that are available. I found something to put in one of them. So what we have as the solution are these light pods or ditch lights by AUXBEAM. Let's take a closer look. Before I go over everything that comes in the box, let's take a closer look at the light. So this is an example of one of the light pods. It is a 3-inch light pod. It's an LED spotlight and floodlight all in one. However, they are available in several colors. There's black, white, red, orange, and yellow. Depending on the color that you pick, which might match the theme of your vehicle. I could have went with a white or a red. I chose the black because the black specifically has the spotlight and floodlight feature built in, as does the red. If you pick any of those other colors that I mentioned, they only give you the spotlight feature, but not the floodlight feature. And that's a simultaneous beam where the spotlight is a 30-degree focused beam and the floodlight is a 60-degree beam. The construction is a high-quality aluminum alloy with cooling fins on the back to help dissipate heat. They're IP67 waterproof and dustproof, so you can get them wet, you can partially submerge them. They are breathable, which means that the seal is designed to still allow moisture to escape. So if condensation occurs, which is pretty normal in the cold months, especially in winter, it should dissipate. But if it doesn't, AUXBEAM says to contact them to help resolve the situation with you. These have an operating voltage between 9 and 32 volts. So we're using it in a 12 volt application, but you could use it in a 24 volt application just as an example. The operating temperature range on these is really good. It's minus 40 Celsius to 85 degrees Celsius, which is minus 40 Fahrenheit roughly to 185 degrees Fahrenheit. So quite substantial. The lumens rating is 4,500 lumens, color temperature 6,500 K with operating hour lifespan of 50,000 hours. So now let's take a closer look at those accessories. So each of the light pods has their own stainless steel mounting hardware. Its design is actually really cool. This just clips onto the inside, and then you have your bolts that go on the sides here, so you can make quick adjustments. And then there's a pivot point when you hook it into a bracket, so you can turn it from left to right. Your wires are just simple plugs with a gasket to make sure that no moisture gets in. So they're just going to clip in like that to your main harness. Your harness already has a relay control built in, which is going to handle all the voltage and also offer a measure of protection to your system. And then you have a fused link connection to your battery and to your ground. This then runs to a switch right here, which allows you to turn the lights on or turn them off. This switch is also tested for durability, so it's not going to break after the first few dozen uses. Now you might have noticed I had some mounting hardware here. This is a sold separately item. This is not an AUXBEAM product. I'll leave a link in the description below just on what brand this is in case you're looking to source some for a vehicle that's the same as mine when it comes to a spec. But I'm not going to focus on the bracketry because it's going to vary by vehicle and these are a universal application. I want to take a moment and walk you through 3 different options I have for installation. You might be able to pick from one of these 3, maybe 2, probably 1, depends on your setup. In this case, I have my GMC Sierra AT4 that already has an AUXBEAM switch panel installed on it. So this is that switch panel I was showing you in the beginning that I want to integrate these lights with. Now, if you don't have a switch panel, let's talk about what that installation looks like. So if you're not going to use a switch panel, you're going to have to wire directly to the battery. So first you're going to have to approximate where your ditch lights are going to be. So your wire is probably going to come down around here somewhere and similar to the other side by that hinge. Then from there, you're going to take your 2 plug ends and you're going to figure out how you're going to route them from each of your pod lights and then have the rest of the harness here with your battery connect points come over to your battery and terminate. So I've temporarily hooked up the positive and the negative directly to the battery. The next thing you'd want to do is you'd want to route this cable for the switch through the firewall into the cab, usually through a grommet or something that would allow you access and keep a bit of a watertight seal. And then you would attach your quick connect attachment here, your plug, and then the switch should work and that light is hooked up. So basically we got it working. That's the most basic way of wiring this. And this relay here is doing all the work. This is not something you wouldn't want to have in line with this setup. So that leaves us with two other ways to do this installation. They both involve my switch assembly here. Now, instead of running the switch into the cab, like I showed you earlier, we can just take the wiring for that switch, hook it up to one of the free spots here, and now that switch that already exists will control it from inside. So that's probably the easiest way to do this, but it's going to still require the use of all this extra wire with this relay that's attached to the harness. I'm also going to need to connect this positive and negative terminal with the fuse link. I could just connect it here or to the battery to make it all work. The other option we have is we can take the harness that's connected to each of the pod lights and we could splice them together and run them directly to one of my free spots on here. As long as we keep it at about 10 amps for protection, there's already relays built into this switch box. So that's probably the cleaner way to do it with less wiring, but it involves some soldering and splicing and probably some heat shrink tubing. I'm going to do it option 2, which is utilize everything that's here. I'll just tuck the extra wiring neatly away, maybe behind the headlight here, and then I'll just wire everything up directly. And the only thing that'll be missing is I won't use this original piece of switch that they ship it with, because I am going to cut this up and attach it there. So let's get this install going. Just a tip for you, if you are using some brackets that attach to your hood hinges, I'd make a little mark exactly where everything was aligned, because if it slips out of place when you go to put everything back together after you've backed off these nuts, your hood might not be aligned properly. So we just have those little guidelines there to make sure that everything's lined up and tightened down exactly where it was once we've added in something like this. All right, these brackets are actually very easy to assemble. You have a couple different orientations you can use. You could have the bracket mount behind the light, or you can have it mount underneath the light. If you look at where my brackets are that we're attaching to, we want the lights set back as far as possible. So we're going to have to put the bracket in this orientation. Now what you want to do ahead of time is you want to feed this hex bolt through here, because once I put this bracket in place where we're going to mount it through the sides here with the screws, you're going to have a hard time getting that in and out. So put that in first. And then it's pretty easy from there. We have these nylon nuts that you can just drop into these cavities here. Grab the other one on this side. And then we have these tightening screws with a lock washer already attached. And then I can just use gravity to help feed that on while I'm twisting it. And we'll just do it hand tight for now. Do the other side here. Just gonna make sure your holes are lined up. Put the Allen wrench in and just start turning, let gravity do its thing. Again, just hand tight. So now we are ready. We can still adjust a little bit. Now we are ready to go mount it to the bracket. Now we can place it on our bracket. I don't need this much bolt, but it's all I got right now. So we are going to attach it just like that. It's a little bit hard to give you a good camera angle, but I'm just going to leave them all just hand tight for now, and I can fine adjust later. But let's test opening the hood and see what that looks like. Lots of clearance from the window. I think it'll work good. All right, they're both mounted. I tightened them down a little bit. I feel they're pretty straight. I might have to still articulate them up or down a little bit. Under the hood here though, later I will cable tie this excess wire just to the mounts like this. That way it's not flopping around or really showing. And now we can actually connect the two light pods. to the main harness and then hook it all up to the switch assembly. Okay, everything's mounted, all the cable management's done, everything's secured, kind of hidden behind the hinge. When we close the hood, we should just see what they look like. So hood is closed. You can see here, the cable just shows a little bit in the back, and then it's tight under the hood. So all you see is a little bit of bracket. And same with the other side, maybe from that angle you can kind of see where the cable goes. But again, it is hidden underneath the hood. So the moment of truth. Let's turn on our switch panel with our remote that I installed. That's a previous video. So our switch panel should be on. And now I'm going to push the button. They work. Well, they work. I'm happy. I knew they would. I'm going to pull the truck out. We're going to wait for some nightfall and then we're going to have a closer look. Well, I think that install worked out pretty good. I actually like them. I like the look, the aesthetic. I like how it complements all the forward-facing light that the truck has. Really happy with the install. If you want to pick yourself up a pair, I'll leave a link in the description below giving you some more information. But if you like today's video, hit that like button. Please consider subscribing. We'll talk to you next time.